reference to Islamic history, but they also seek to minimize the positive contributions of African Americans and Latinos. They even suggest that editing key parts of our civil rights history to minimize the impact of Jim Crow laws. Listen, if you want to teach Islam in a historic aspect, maybe 4 or 5 days, I'm fine with that. I don't think you need a month. And I don't think you need to add all the religious content that goes with it, okay? Similarly, stigmatizing Americans because of their faith is a direct assault. Look at how they word this. It's a direct assault on our Founding Fathers' vision and the First Amendment's anti-establishment clause. Do they have a right to practice their religion in America? They certainly do. That's protected under the Bill of Rights under the Constitution. And we're going to look at that. How many have heard of Jay Sekulow of the ACLJ? Here's his book. The next 2 pages are excerpts out of this book. When I read this book, this opened my eyes to so much. It says, the framers of the United States Constitution were careful to craft the Bill of Rights not to establish an official religion. The First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Islam, however, recognizes no such distinction between religion and state. In fact, Islam means submission to the will of Allah. This is the primary reason why many Muslims demand the enforcement of Sharia in all countries in which they reside, because mosque and state are not separate. A devout Muslim must have the state recognize and apply Sharia law, or he or she cannot fully practice Islam. While Sharia travels with a Muslim wherever he goes, it is expected to be enforced universally over and above the law of any land. The U.S. law is generally limited to the U.S. and does not apply in other countries. If I travel to Britain or France or Germany, I don't take American law with me. I abide by their law. Not so with Muslims. That's the reason they want Sharia law. Look at the next page and we'll explain this. Islamic Sharia and the divine law according to Muslims literally means law of Islam. Islamic Sharia is different from other religion law in that it covers not only the spiritual aspect of Muslims' life, but also a legal system that must be enforced by the state. Indeed, the threat of political Islam in the United States is no longer abstract, it is now a reality. Islamists have already begun implementing their ideology, submission to Allah at all costs in America. The Muslim Brotherhood said the following in a memorandum laying out its goals to dominate America. Here we are with the Muslim Brotherhood again. The Muslim Brotherhood must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad and eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within, and that Allah's religion is made victorious over all other religions. Moreover, because Sharia is incompatible with American notions of law and justice, we must ensure that it is barred from receiving recognition in the United States to preserve the liberties and freedoms protected by our Constitution. What does all that say? Here's what's happening. They want to use our own Constitution against us. They want to say, hey, I'm an American, I live in America, therefore by the Constitution I have a right to my own religion. You do. It stops there. You don't have a right to dictate your religion on everyone else. What they want to do is, they come in and say, for me to be a full-blown practicing Muslim, I have to have Sharia law. And when you give them the ability to have Sharia law dominate them, do you know what happens? Sharia trumps your Constitution. Now, they're not answering to American and American law, they are answering to Sharia law. How many of you have heard in France these no-go zones? You've heard of those? You know what a no-go zone is? That's where Sharia law is taken over. They've tried it up in Dearborn, Michigan. This past week, or 2 weeks ago, how many of you saw on Glenn Beck where he met with those imams down in Texas? They're trying to get Sharia law implemented in there. I'm telling you right now, if that gets a foothold in this country, what they're going to do is they're going to use the Religious Freedom Act, say, hey, you're preventing me by your own Constitution. You won't let me worship in my own way. So when you give in, because nobody wants to be Islamophobic, nobody wants to be Islamic haters, we cave in, we give in, okay, you can have Sharia law. As soon as you do that, it trumps your U.S. Constitution law. you're in a world of mess. Now you're hurting. This is just something to throw out there just to ask a quick question. Why this year did the Common Core people that are really behind the instrumentation of building Common Core, why did they meet in Dubai? October 24th through 25th, they had their meeting in an Islamic country for Common Core. Here's Pearson, Arab World Publishing Program. Pearson, Tennessee. They have a special page dedicated to Tennessee. Listen to what it says. It says, Tennessee Social Studies Curriculum Standards, Middle School Social Studies. For grades 6 through 8, my daughter's in 7, Pearson offers 3 programs, especially for Tennessee, that include Common Core Skills Practice. But it's not Common Core. Let me ask you a question. I understand that Common Core is supposed to come from Washington. And I think we all know what Washington is about. Let's say, let me give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it's not coming from Washington. Let's say it's not coming from, the Federal Department of Education. If it's not then who's left responsible? Nashville. If you don't want to say it's Common Core and you don't want to accept it being in Washington, guess what, Nashville? You own it. Because you're the one that chose 4 weeks of standards to push down to the state and down to the local communities and say, hey, teach 4 weeks of Islam. And here's what I get all the time. When I talk to anybody in Washington or in Nashville that has any connection with this kind of stuff, here's what they say. Well, that's not our fault. That's the local school board's picking the curriculum. Well, you know what? If you didn't give 4 weeks of standards, the local school board wouldn't find 4 weeks of Islam to fulfill your standards. That's common sense. I say it all the time. We don't have common sense. We've got Common Core. Right? If the state didn't mandate, or Common Core didn't mandate 4 weeks of Islam, would you have to look for 4 weeks of curriculum to fulfill the standards? No, you wouldn't. So, have it either way you want. If you want to say it's Common Core Washington, fine. But if you say it's not Common Core, then Nashville, you own it. There's your book from Pearson. I just showed it to you. If you look at the table of contents, it says Middle Ages of the Islamic world, 400 to 1500. Now, here's Pearson. It says Pearson is committed to working with partners such as Schoology. A lot of people say, what's Schoology? Never heard of that before. Remember, we don't have textbooks. We have digital conversion. We have laptops. So what happens is, Schoology is the portal by which we log in to find our curriculum. So once we log into Schoology, we can find, no matter what it is, everything from math to science to history or whatever it may be. So we have to go there, and we're going to look at that in just a moment. It says Pearson Foundation partners with Bill and Wendy Gates to create a digital learning programs, and I've already talked about that with the 600 laptops from Microsoft. Here's the login. If you don't have a child in the public school system, you don't have access to a login and a password. You can't see the curriculum. Do you think that's fair? I don't. You're taxpayers. You may not have a child in the school system. Maybe your children are grown and have graduated and moved on. You, as a taxpayer, still have a right to see what those kids are learning. How many of you know or heard of Bobby Portray, the Eagle Forum? She was there when I spoke at that summit not too long ago. She has introduced a bill, and Micah Van Huss is actually carrying the bill, that says if you've done digital conversion, whether county or city or whatever municipality you're in, you must provide the public a user ID and password. They have the right to see what our children are being taught. So, if you log into Schoology, you click on Unit 2 Islam, there you're going to find these files. Islamic Agenda, Islam PowerPoint, the 5 Pillars of Islam. By the way, my daughter was not only given the 5 Pillars of Islam in her curriculum once, she was given it twice. So now we're getting to the meat of everything. We're starting to look at curriculum here. The pages go on, these files. Islamic hip-hop, rap, lyrics, we're going to look at that. Muhammad, Islam PowerPoint, they study more Muhammad. Pearson. Essentially, they took this book, put it on a digital scanner, scanned it. That's where these pages come from. The Quran, Sunnah, Pearson pages, more Pearson pages, more Pearson pages. I went and had a meeting with the director of schools. I had a meeting with the principal at my daughter's school, and I also had a meeting with the director of curriculum. And I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I was telling somebody this earlier. I never one time went after my daughter's school. I never one time mentioned its name. I did this for almost 3.5 months. I didn't mention my daughter's name just simply because I didn't want there to be any repercussions upon the school. When I sit before them, I told them, I said, I'm not saying that the teachers are trying to convert our children. I'm saying the curriculum teaches conversion. Now, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe what you're looking at is just curriculum to you. It's far more than curriculum. Let me explain it to you. I spent 2.5 hours in there with those members. When they got done, they said, we see that there's some things that shouldn't have been put in your daughter's curriculum. And we're going to take that out. They never said they were sorry, but they said, yeah, we see we've made some mistakes. So they said, we're going to make some changes. So a couple days later, I went to pull up the Islamic file in Schoology. Guess what? File's gone. Can't even find that curriculum in my daughter's Schoology files anymore. Dr. Laurie Roth. This is a scarily smart woman. She is a PhD in counseling, and she lives in Washington State. She wrote this article, Islam on Track, Stealing Our Children with Common Core. Common Core is no school curriculum but a national emergency. She says, I've been warning and screaming against Common Core for years now, talking every week with Ruth Bryant White and Breaking News Journal, Christina Mikas, and other leaders, shining the light on this madness. The more I research, interview victims, and look at the real lesson plans, I realize that this is a direct and evil plan of Islam, communism, and the New World Order. It is a direct and evil plan. It is an evil caliphate in which full swing that plans to steal, data mine, and control the minds and word choices and dreams of our children. She goes on, it's a rewrite of history and a push of Islam down children's throats. She makes the CARE-Hamas connection. She says Common Core pushes Islamic conversion, Christianity is out. I seen that, and I remember reading that, because you have to remember something. I just got these books not too long ago. I probably had these books in about maybe 3 weeks. And I remember that line right there. So I went back and I started looking at this McGraw-Hill book. My daughter also uses this book. Don't know if you use it here. Again, this is my story. And McGraw-Hill, this is their webpage. It says, it's got the CCSS stamp on it, Common Core State Standard. Common Core Solutions Adult Education prepares for the shift to the CCSS and increased rigor and accountability that introduces there are a number of challenges and questions that lie ahead. There's a book. Okay? Tennessee, top right-hand corner, grade 7. I had a lot of people come up to me and say, well, maybe this is just a generic book. Maybe Tennessee just grabbed a generic book and it's not really adopted by the Textbook Association. It's not approved for the state of Tennessee. It says Tennessee. So there's no denying it. It's not just a generic book. On the left, you will find the curriculum, the standards, I apologize, the standards set forth by the state of Tennessee. On the right, you will find the table of contents in that book. Look, the first, Roman Empire, Roman Empire. There is an entire chapter in this book on Christianity, the rise of Christianity. There's no teaching of Christianity. They completely skipped that chapter. Move on down, Islamic world, Islamic civilization. Africa, Africa. Then they have the Americas, the founding of America. They skipped that chapter. Every other chapter is in this book. China, China. Japan, Japan. Europe, Europe. Renaissance and Reformation, Renaissance and Reformation. It's not on the bottom here, but age of exploration, age of exploration. They completely skip the chapter of Christianity in this book. Now here's what I've heard say, and I've looked at it. Well, in 6th grade we covered a little bit of Christianity under Rome. If you look at those two and you compare what's taught, there's no comparison. But yet in this book that's authorized by the state of Tennessee, every chapter in this book is taught based on the curriculum and the standards except for Christianity. What did Lauren Rolfe say? Islam is in, Christianity is out. Afterwards, if you want to come up here and look at this side by side, here's the printout of the standards. You can look at it side by side with the book. I'll be happy for you to do that. Here's some of those pages that have nothing to do with Common Core, but yet there's a Common Core stamp, state standards stamp on the Islamic pages. But again, it's not Common Core. More Islamic pages with the CCSS stamp on them. Here's what she writes. Let me get to my page here. I've got to pull this one out. Here's what she says. She says the lesson plan for teacher lesson plans in Common Core. So if you're going to be teaching, in her opinion, what she's studied with Common Core and Islam, here are the things you need to look for. Number 1, the 5 pillars of Islam. Number 2, submission to the will of Allah and a call to jihad. Number 3, converting to Islam. What is Islam? Number 4, an overview of the Quran and Sharia law, Islam. Number 5, Islam in the United States. And it goes on to talk about hate crimes. So there's like 6 or 7 points here that maybe you need to look for in your curriculum. So let's look. She says the first thing you're going to study is the 5 pillars of Islam. That's curriculum. That was given to my daughter. The 5 pillars of Islam. The 5 pillars of Islam represent the duties of a Muslim like the 10 Commandments. They are providing a spiritual foundation and function. These duties will be explained in detail in the following pages. The first one is the Shahada. Does anybody know a lot about the Shahada? If you do, raise your hand. If you don't, this ought to scare you to death. The Shahada, declaration of faith in Allah. It says the first pillar of Islam is called the Shahada. It is a brief prayer proclaiming the oneness of God and faith in Islam. Children, memorize the Shahada as an action which introduces them to the Islamic community. What does that prayer say? There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. I'm not okay with that. As a parent, I will not stand for that. I will go all over this state standing against that. Why? IslamWorld.net. This is not curriculum. This is an Islamic website. How to become a Muslim. If anyone has a real desire to be a Muslim and has full conviction and strong belief that Islam is the true religion ordained by Allah for all human beings, then one should pronounce the Shahada, the testimony of faith, without further delay. Why does that concern me? That's ISIS. They're burning people in cages, or cutting people's heads off, killing Coptic Christians. I seen this past week, they're going into towns and communities, they're putting black bags over people's heads, they're tying their hands behind them, they're making the people of the community come together in a circle or in a square. They're taking them to the highest building and they're throwing them off the building and making the people watch as they plunge to their death. That's their flag. See that seal in the middle? That's the seal of Muhammad. Do you know what across the top says in Arabic? Do you know what that translates to into English? The Shahada. Doesn't bother you? It bothers me. It's on their flag. How many of you have heard them? They produced a video here not too long ago. They said, America, we're coming for you. Our flag is going to fly over your White House. How do they do that? They first start by getting to our children, because that's our future. Then they implement Sharia law. It says, there is no God but Allah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Well, that's just ISIS. That's an isolated incident. What about Boko Haram? You guys remember the 300 young ladies that they kidnapped and sold into a sex slave? What about Al-Qaeda that went into that school over there and killed a bunch of kids? What about Hamas and Hezbollah? Okay? If you go to the United States State Department's website, they have 43 Islamic listed terrorist organizations. Don't tell me it's just ISIS. Did you know, I looked this up right before I came here, there are 44 conflicts going on across the world right now. That's whether there's murder or some kind of conflict where people are being engaged in dying. Of the 44 conflicts, did you know Islam is responsible for 39 of the 44? And you want me to be okay with you teaching my daughter the 5 pillars of Islam, Shahada, and it's on the flag, and there's 43 listed Islamic terrorist groups from the State Department. They give my daughter handouts on how to bow to Mecca. Would you be okay with that?
No.
Not either. My daughter had to do a PowerPoint presentation for homework on this. How to bow to Mecca. Allah Akbar, meaning God is great. Do you remember the Fort Hood shooter went in yelling Allah Akbar? But that's workplace violence, remember. That wasn't terrorism, workplace violence. Okay? She said, number 2, if you're going to be looking at common core Islam, the second thing, look for submission to the will of Allah. We're back to curriculum again. That was in my daughter's curriculum pages. The Judeo-Christian foundations of Islam. It says they believe in the Judeo-Christian God, which they call Allah. That's a bold-faced lie. Not only are you putting junk in front of our kids, you're lying to them. I am a Christian. I believe that Jesus is the Son of God. They do not. They believe he was a teacher, a philosopher, a good man, but they deny him being the Son of God. Well, how are you serving the same God as I am, being a Christian, if you say that's not his son? I heard people say, well, that's your opinion. Okay? Let's look what the Quran has to say. It says, only, third line down, only an apostle of Allah in his word which he communicated to Mary, or Mary, and a spirit from him. Believe therefore in Allah and his apostles. Say not 3. In other words, deny the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Say not 3. Desist. It is better for you. Allah is only one God. Far be it from him, from his glory, that he should have a son. That's in the Quran. That's not my opinion. Look at the last. It says, Surah 4:157. Surely we have killed the Messiah, Isa, Jesus, son of Mary, the apostle of Allah. They did not kill him, nor did they crucify him. What does my Bible say? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. John 14:6. Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. If there's one verse in the Bible in the day and time in which we live you should memorize, it's 1 John 2:22. Who is a liar, but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist, that denieth the Father and the Son. Okay? Whether you like it or not, we are a Judeo-Christian nation. We were founded on Christian principles. I had somebody the other day come up to me and they said, well, that could be talking about the atheists. I said, the atheists don't believe in God. So I don't have to worry about them denying Jesus. They don't believe in God. Islam believes in God, but they flat out deny that Jesus is the Son of God. If you're a Christian, your Bible tells you who your enemy is. He that denieth the Father and the Son is Antichrist. I won't stand for that. I won't let my daughter be taught that. She will be told the truth. And if you're a parent, this should concern you. We're going to look a little deeper here in just a moment. The third thing she talks about is conversion. She's 3 for 3. She nailed the first two. Now she's going 3 for 3. Why is Islam able to spread so quickly and convert so many to the new religion? Essential question. Let's look at what my daughter was given in her curriculum to answer that question. It's easy to learn and practice. It teaches equality. Now, does anybody in here truly, in your heart, believe Islam teaches equality? Look at one of the things that's listed as a reason to convert to Islam. Jihad, holy war against pagans and other non-believers, infidels. They actually put that in curriculum that says a good reason to convert is so that you can have a holy war against people that don't believe the same way you do. Let's read some out of these books that I just showed you. The final factor in the Muslim success was the appeal of Islam itself. Islam offered followers a direct path to God and salvation. It emphasized the equality of all believers. It stressed fairness and justice in human affairs. For these reasons and others, many non-Muslims chose to convert to Islam. The policies of those opponents also helped the Muslims. The Byzantines and Persian rulers had tried to unite their people under an official religion. Now look at this. Look who the bad people are here, the Byzantines. They often mistreated those who practiced other faiths. But when Muslim armies attacked, many of these people were willing to accept Muslim rule. After the Arabs gained control, they usually let conquered people practice their own religions. Islam teaches that Christians and Jews are people of the book, people who believe in one God and follow sacred rites. Therefore, many Muslims respect their beliefs and practices. The two people they're killing are Christians and Jews. Now, if you're a Muslim and you stand in their way and their ideology, yes, they'll kill you too. But they're mainly going after Christians and Jews. When you look at these textbooks, you would think that we're all best friends. It's amazing at how much they love Jews and Christians. You're the infidel. I mean, just a few minutes ago, here's what blows my mind. They'll talk about what good friends you are with Jews and Christians, but then 2 or 3 pages ago, I just showed you that you can have a holy war and a jihad for non-believers. Isn't that like sending a mixed signal? You can't have both. Okay, she says here, all right, she's 3 for 3, now she's going for 4 for 4. What are the beliefs of Islam? It says, I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of God, come to worship. This call contains the most important beliefs of Islam, beliefs in one all-powerful God, and the belief that Muhammad was God's final messenger of human beings. The Quran is Islam's holy book, and it also the main source of Islamic teaching. Much of the Quran language is written in a poetic style that many Arabic speakers find beautiful. Well, let's look at some of that. The Quran, 3:151. Soon we shall cast terror into the hearts of the unbelievers. For that they joined companions with Allah, for which he had sent no authority. 5:51. O you who believe, do not take Jew and Christian for friends. They are friends of each other, and whoever amongst you take them for a friend, then surely he is one of them. Surely Allah does not guide the unjust people. Do you know how they refer to the state of Israel? They're the little Satan. Do you know how they refer to the United States? You're the big Satan. Jews and Christians. We are a Christian nation, but we're not what we used to be. Quran 8:12. I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve. Therefore, strike off their heads. I told somebody the other day, I purposefully tried to go 48 hours to avoid anything about Islam. I tried. I mean, I turned it to CNN. I went to Fox News. I went to the internet. I turned the radio on. I couldn't go 24 hours that something wasn't being put up front that's going on with Islam. Beliefs and practices of Islam. Here we are. Like Jews and Christians, Muslims believe that God spoke for people through prophets. For Muslims, these prophets include Adam, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. In Islam, Muhammad is seen as the last and greatest of these prophets. The collection became the Quran, or the Holy Book of Islam. Muslims believe that the Quran is written Word of God. Islamic scholars created a code of law, which the Sharia is based on the Quran. I want you to look at this. According to Sharia, Muslims may not gamble, eat pork, or drink alcoholic beverages. There's a little more to Sharia law than that. I said this last night. I see probably just as many women here as there are men. Women, I stand with you wholeheartedly against that mess. They denigrate women. It's pathetic at how they want to treat women.